Thank you very much, SIBMBengaluru, for inviting me to talk to you at your TEDx 2020 talk. I'm very privileged and grateful to be here, and particularly to talk on a theme which is so very relevant today, winds of change. The subtopic of my lecture to you today is why the word liberal should not be a term of abuse, but should be a badge of pride. That's because I feel that liberal freedoms are a catalyst for change. Liberal freedoms bring the winds of change. Liberal freedoms are what society moves forward with. Where does the word liberal come from? The word liberal comes from the word liberty. India is the land of liberty. The preamble of our constitution says, we, the people of India, solemnly resolve to secure for every citizen liberty. Liberty of thought, liberty of expression, liberty of faith, liberty of belief, liberty of worship. India is the land of liberty. America, too, is the land of liberty. You've all seen the Statue of Liberty holding aloft the torch of freedom. Liberal means the idea that protects individual liberty, the idea that protects individual freedom, the innovative thinker, the innovative entrepreneur, the bold poet, the creative painter, the writer who is not afraid, the scientist who goes against popular belief, the teacher who dares to teach what is against the conventional wisdom, the freedom to say the right thing, but the freedom also to say the wrong thing, the freedom to succeed and the freedom to fail, the freedom to achieve what you want to achieve and the freedom to see your ideals dashed, the freedom to be wrong is the most important driver of change. What is happening to individual freedom in today's world? We have the colonial section, sedition, Section 124A, which is a colonial era law where the British Raj used to clamp down on Indian freedom fighters. That law is being clamped on students for raising slogans. I submit to you, a student may be right, a student may be wrong, but it is the freedom to make mistakes which is what gives us education. It is the freedom to be wrong which propels us forward. It is the freedom to say the right thing, but the freedom to also say the wrong thing, which helps us to achieve what liberty means. So clamping sedition on a student, terribly damaging for liberty. Sedition is being clamped on writers. Sedition is being clamped on thinkers. The freedom to think is increasingly being questioned. The freedom to think is being muzzled. The freedom to express is being muzzled. The freedom to argue is being muzzled. Thinkers such as Narendra Dabholkar, Govind Pansare, M.M. Kalburgi, the great intellectual of Karnataka, what happened to them? Their lives were snuffed out. The journalist and colleague, my colleague Gauri Lankesh, boldly outspoken. You could agree with her, you could disagree with her, but what happened to her? Her life ended with a gunshot. So individual freedoms today, or those who pursue their individual freedoms, are being severely curtailed. Individual liberties are being curtailed. And I put to you that if you don't have liberty of thought and if you don't have freedom of expression, how can you have a liberal, innovative, diverse economy? How can you have an economy of entrepreneurs if we are stifled by fear? How can you have an economy of innovation if we are worried about the state? How can we have an economy which celebrates entrepreneurial boldness if we are worried constantly about government power? Who is the apostle of Indian liberalism? To me, the father of the Indian nation is also the father of Indian liberalism. Mahatma Gandhi was perhaps the world's greatest liberal. Mahatma Gandhi believed in the power of the individual to prevail over her circumstances. Personal transformation would lead to political transformation. Gandhi said, "I look upon the increase in the power of the state with the greatest fear, because in the guise of minimizing exploitation or in an apparent bid to do good, the state destroys individuality, which is the catalyst of civilization." For Gandhi, individuality was the catalyst of change, the catalyst of growth, the catalyst of progress. Yet that individuality is being destroyed. Those who perceive liberal freedoms to be important, who campaign for liberal freedoms, who are liberal, today are called anti-national. They're called traitors. They're called urban Naxals. An honorable law professor, honored by Harvard Law School, who has worked all her life in the study of Adivasi communities, today languishes in prison for more than a year. So individual freedoms, those who pursue individual freedoms are being called all kinds of names. But I submit to you, let's not call the liberal names. Let us instead understand that the liberal is protecting that vital catalyst of change, which is individual freedom. Why is the state crushing individual freedom? Because the Indian state started off in its conception and its founding as a welfare state. In the Nehruvian era, the Indian state was supposed to provide the facilities for individual enterprise and for individual growth. Education, health, these were the priorities of the state. But today we find, and I submit to you, that the Indian state has ceased to be a welfare state, and it is becoming a police state. Enormously powerful laws are being used to clamp down on the individual. Are you saying something the government doesn't like? Sedition. Are you holding some kind of protest? Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Are you asking questions the government doesn't need to be asked? You will be in jail. Are you writing a play that the government doesn't like? You will be in jail. Are you drawing a cartoon that some state government doesn't like? You will be asked to leave your job. Are you trying to write a poem that some government doesn't like or some politicians don't like? You will be persecuted in many ways. So the Indian state is refusing to dialogue with its detractors and with its critics. And I don't mean the Indian state only of one political persuasion. Indian states of all political persuasions. Every political party today is trying to capture state power and push partisan ideological agendas through state power. This is where we need to learn from Gandhi. Gandhi held very strongly to his beliefs of vegetarianism, to his belief in the charkha, to his belief in khadi, to his belief in celibacy, to his belief in cow protection. But Gandhi repeatedly emphasized that we will not use the power of the state to push partisan ideological agendas. I may not approve that you are non-vegetarian. I may not approve that you like to watch certain films. I may not approve of the kind of books you read, or the kind of poetry you write, or the kind of person you want to marry, or the person you want to fall in love with. But I cannot use state power to curb your individual liberties. And individual liberty, I hasten to add, is not nihilism or anarchism. It is a constitutional principle enshrined in our Constitution. Therefore, lawful, legal liberty is our right. Within the framework of the law, within the framework of the Constitution, we have the right to personal liberty. But it is this personal liberty that we are now enjoined to protect, because it is this personal liberty which is in deep danger. What is happening to democracy? All over the world, democracy is being taken over by what has been called the elected authoritarians. In the 1930s, it was supposed to be that democracy's enemy was communism. In the 1940s, democracy's enemy was supposed to be fascism. What is democracy's enemy today? Democracy. There are leaders who are coming through the democratic process, who are turning their backs on democracy's norms and processes, and erecting a kind of authoritarianism which democracy is not about. Democracy moves to protect the individual. Democracy moves to protect the minority because the individual is the most important minority. Why does democracy protect the individual? Why does democracy protect the minority? Because today's minority view could be tomorrow's majority view. Electoral majorities are not permanent. Electoral majorities are temporary. They're transient. What is a majority opinion today could be a minority opinion tomorrow. Today's minority opinion could be tomorrow's majority opinion. Therefore, democratic processes, the rule of law, protect the minority, protect the individual, and they protect the sanctity of the individual. It's very important, therefore, for us to relearn these rules of democracy. It is very important for us to understand that the cult of the strong man is blinding us to our own freedoms. When we give our blind adoration to the strong man, when we give our blind obedience to a strong man leader, when we worship power, power in the form of a Superman, Batman, Bahubali, Mahabali, Bajrangbali, he will come into a place and with this power of his supernatural magic, he will change everything. But when we give this power to the Superman, when we give this power to the Dabang, when we give this power to the strong man, we surrender our own liberty. We surrender our own individual freedom. And it is this individual freedom that is actually going to help us grow and is going to help us grow our economy and grow our society. But if we surrender this individual freedom to the quest for power of somebody else, to the quest of a cult of personality, to the quest for a personality cult of a strong man, then we take away that vital resource that is necessary to move society forward. And it is these elected authoritarians at every level that I believe are crushing individual liberty today. Look at the power of the government. For example, the South Korean film Parasite, as you know, has just won the Academy Award for Best Picture. Now we must ask the question, why has an Indian film never won for Best Picture when we have such a long developed film industry? After we ask that question, we also have to ask the question, why are we the only democracy where the Central Board of Film Certification is manned by political appointees? Does this happen in any other democracy? Is any other democracy giving the power to politicians to censor movies, where political appointees will decide what is a cuss word and what is the right word and what is the wrong word? When an industry is subject to this kind of control, how can it shatter the boundaries that will lead us to excellence? When an industry is subject to this kind of censorship, how can it achieve the levels of creativity that will meet international standards? The British Board of Film Classification is made up of industry professionals who classify films. The American Motion Picture Association, again, an industry body which is made up of people who simply classify films. It is only in India that the Central Board of Film Classification is manned by politicians. Let us push back the power of the politician and let us push back the power of the state and let us allow individual liberty to take greater control of our society. I believe that is a catalyst for change. Why should we have an anomaly like something called the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting? Should a mature democracy have a Ministry of Information? India is the country with the largest number of internet shutdowns. In 2018, 67% of the world's internet shutdowns were in India. Since 2014, 37% of the world's, the internet has been shut down 37 times. Internet shutdowns, censorship, banning books, which was the first country to ban Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses. India, which was a country to exile its most foremost painter, M.F. Hussain. India, which was the film that has the country that has the worst record in banning films and banning books. Why can't we see the BBC documentary, India's Daughter, on the Nirbhaya rape case? In India, it's banned. Why can't we read Javier Moro's The Red Sari in India? That's banned. Why can't we read The Great Soul by Joseph Lelyveld on Mahatma Gandhi? It's banned. Why can't people in Gujarat see the film Fana? That's banned. How many bans, how many censors, how many times is our individual liberty going to be curtailed by the state and by so-called politicians who believe that they are the arbiters of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable? I submit to you that this is a time we need to appreciate what liberty is, and we need to appreciate what our own individual liberty is. Now, I'm not making a case for zealous libertarianism. I'm not making a case for abolishing the government. I'm not making a case for waging an argument against the existence of the state completely. I believe governments can be smart governments. In Delhi, I must say that the Aam Aadmi Party government there has a localized model of service delivery which is working for the people. This was again the Gandhian vision, that when you have a localized government structure which delivers services to the people, this is the best government. The best government is local government. The best government is where you can demand services from your elected representatives. The best government is where citizen rules and where citizens' rights are paramount. But when you have a vastly inflated, centralized government, you then have an oppression of the citizen. So I submit to you that let's be Gandhians. Let's embrace liberty. Let's embrace lawful pursuit of individual freedom. And let's make the most of liberty to create change in society. Because when we have liberty for ourselves, we have the liberty to change society and to make society better. Where did the great American tech companies grow? Did they grow in Washington? Or did Facebook and Twitter and Amazon take life in California? Far away from government power, far away from the seat of political power. It is in California, known for free speech, known for innovativeness, that you had the rise of the great entrepreneurial innovator. So let us embrace individual liberty for ourselves and for society as a whole, and enhance liberty in society to become catalysts and agents of change. Because liberty is good for me, it's good for you, and it's a vital need at the moment.